This man was a quiet revolutionary who turned diplomacy into China's survival strategy. This is Zhou Enlai, and I'm Matt Hasquin. I'm taking you through Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, line by line, lyric by lyric, and, well, here we go. When Billy Joel sings Zhou Enlai, we're talking about the Chinese premier who shaped the People's Republic's, their foreign policy from its birth through the most tense years of the Cold War. And Zhou was, well, he was a veteran organizer before 1949. He was fluent in languages of both politics and of people. And after the revolution, he became the PRC's first premier. And for years, he was the foreign minister. And he was the face that China sent out to the world while Mao dominated internal politics. He helped end the Korean War through armistice talks that then emerged as the architect of a strategy that was, be firm at home and be predictably pragmatic abroad. Two mid-1950s scenes really define his rise. In 1954, at Geneva, Zhou negotiated over Indochina, projecting this calm confidence. In that same year, China announced the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence with India. Mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, non-aggression, non-interference, equality and mutual benefit, just peaceful coexistence. Then in 1955, at the Bandung Conference, Zhou worked the hallways to lower tensions between Asian and African states, and he tried to present China as anti-colonial and reasonable. And it was an image that kind of, it reduced fears of, the communist revolutionary export of its ideals. At home, the 1960s were kind of tumultuous. During the Cultural Revolution, Zhou tried to shield scientists and artists and officials while never openly breaking with Mao. He kept ministries functioning, he protected some targeted figures, and he quietly pushed for reopening China's doors when the moment came, when the moment was right. And that moment was the Sino-American thaw. In 1971, through the ping-pong diplomacy, there was a signaled change that was needed. And Zhou hosted secret talks with Henry Kissinger, which then set up President Nixon's 1972 visit to Beijing. The handshake may be the photo we remember between Nixon and Mao, but the choreography was all Zhou's. You had protocol, you had timing, and you had a phrasing that let both sides claim success without really losing any face. Even late in life, Zhou sketched a path that was beyond revolution and more towards modernization. In 1975, he backed a program that was later called the 4 Modernizations: agriculture, industry, science, and technology. And then you add national defense. And this would help guide China after Mao. Zhou died in 1976. It was January of 1976. And public mourning for Zhou became a subtle protest against the excesses of the Cultural Revolution. This would then foreshadow some political shifts that were in the future. When we tie it back to the song, Zhou Enlai signals the diplomatic turn that took place inside the Cold War. China was stepping from isolation to negotiation. You had a premier who made restraint this tool of power. And the reason why it matters, well, Zhou Enlai shows how diplomacy can buy stability, can shape reputation, and then open options even under tight or rigid internal control. Understanding him helps explains why China's re-entry into the world in the 1970s looked choreographed rather than just chaotic. If you enjoyed this particular episode of We Didn't Start the Fire piece by piece, hey, I appreciate it. Leave a like, a comment, and follow all the things there. And I'll keep rolling on through because after Zhou Enlai, next up is Bridge on the River Kwai. Thanks for taking the time to watch.